So today I wanted to talk about Ana, and I'm going to be talking about Gale playing Ana, and I wanted to talk about this character because she just got a huge buff, now dealing 70 damage per shot instead of 60, her old damage value. And that is so strong. It makes it now that she can, essentially 3-shot 200 HP heroes, DPS, supports, whatever, instead of 4-shotting them. And mainly against Mercy, against Pharah, against all those characters, she can counter them a lot better now. And one thing I wanted to kind of tell you guys about this is that you should use it a little bit more of as a protective, defensive tool to make sure you don't die, instead of using it as an extremely offensive tool, as I know a lot of people are going to try to do. But it is still a really good tool you can now do. As well, I'm going to say that she's just overall really great right now because, especially when Moira comes out, she's going to be able to go triple tank, death ball, and with them together, with of course your healing grenade, it's going to be absolutely ridiculous, and I'm really excited to kind of see what it does. Other than that, she also still does work great in 2-2-2, and even works with a 3-2-1 comp. So you can play her really just about anywhere. She can do quite a bit. Unfortunately, our Gale player gets kind of stomped with his team right here, but after that, they do quite well. And a final thing to say about Ana before I go into the actual tips of just, this gameplay is that she actually is really strong now as far as countering Mercy, because you can kill her so easily now, 1E, 2 shots. And you can put her to sleep while she's trying to res someone, and that will put her sleep on a 30-second cooldown. So, not her sleep, put her res on a 30-second cooldown. So, kind of keep all that in mind when you're looking at this player. And yeah, it's just amazing stuff going on with Ana. I'm not sure if she's going to become, super meta. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. But I think she's definitely not a troll pick anymore, which she kind of was for a while. Like, literally the lowest winner in the game. Anyways, to the actual gameplay. Right here, we see something that's pretty good. Of course, ulting the Reinhardt. One thing you want to remember about ulting Rein, though, is that you use it to get a free opening and to close distance, but you don't do it to actually get damage out. And you don't really want to ult Rein when Rein is the only one on your team with an ult. Rein just can't get your actual DPS in there. Instead, he just allows your DPS to kind of funnel in through choke points. So that's kind of how you want to play that. If you do just need more DPS, do ult your DPS. Rein's not going to really be able to do that, and don't expect your Rein to get a lot of kills. Just expect him to make an opening. Other than that, we also see Gale often running really close to his teammates to heal them, a lot closer than I would expect, like almost melee range, sometimes a little bit further, like, the distance we're seeing right now. But he gets in very close, and he usually doesn't shoot in the sniper form on offense. On defense, we'll see that he does quite a bit, but on offense, he's almost always, pretty medium close range, except for when he wants to hit stuff like, of course, the Junkrat ult, because you do have to kind of zoom to hit that. But for the most part, he's really close, medium range, dealing damage, dealing healing. When he is doing damage, for the most part, he is trying to be zoomed in, but especially healing, he gets up close. Even right there, we saw that. If you do want to make sure that you're getting a super good grenade, we actually saw that right there. Do make sure that you actually, walk right next to your teammates, put that grenade down. It's going to hit everybody. It is kind of risky, but a lot of the times he will take in the risk. He'll get close. He'll get that damage out. He'll get that healing out. He sniped the Mercy right there, and it all works out pretty well. And you do want to play a lot more risky on offense, and playing closer is more risky, but does help your team up quite a bit. Overall, he pushes up when his team does push up, he heals around corners, and he just goes in when his team actually wants to go in. And as well, I want to say that he's not afraid of using a sleep dart. I know a lot of people kind of are because they're afraid they're going to miss it and mess up their team. Just kind of go for it when it's off cooldown. If you know that somebody like a Mercy's coming up and you really need to save it for them, maybe save it. But for most other situations, just kind of get ready to use it. All right, here, of course, he's taking the high ground. His team's doing a lot of damage. When his team is on the offensive and when they are winning fights, for the most part, Gale, I guess, tries to often get damage on the enemy DPS, get damage on the enemy supports, and actually try to kill them. And then when his teammates start losing the fight, of course, he heals them. You don't really want to be healing your teammates when they're already winning the fight, because often you can pick off people that your tanks can't, because that extra 70 damage, that can take them out. I guess some final things, because he's pushing up this point right here. You can see that you actually do a ton of damage right there, and he just got to be able to kill this Zarya by himself. So that's the thing that's pretty impressive about this character now. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of stuff like that that's pretty good. I think they finally finished it off right here. He's trying to snipe, trying to do whatever. And there's a Mercy ulting. One thing about a Mercy that's ulting, you want to just kind of ignore her, heal your teammates, damage the enemies like you always do. Try to get some really clutch grenades, because those are very important to counter her, but don't actually try to shoot at the Mercy way too much. We almost never see him doing that, because it's just not really gonna kill her. You can't do enough damage. She heals too much, unless you can get a grenade, which is very unlikely. You can still go, of course, for the sleep, and if you can get that, that's amazing. But for the most part, don't really expect way too much from yourself, and don't really be too mad about yourself. Right there, a super good sleep dart into shot combo against the Tracer, and that's the thing I want you guys to remember. If you actually shoot, grenade shoot, you can kill Tracer. Or if you, I guess, melee, grenade melee. shoot, maybe that'll be able to work. There's a lot more stuff that you can do now to actually finish people off, so that's kind of nice, and it can be used to protect. He's finishing it off right here on offense, getting up really close, making sure that he's not going to miss anything, and of course, he also did make sure to call out who he's anti-ing during this entire game. That's a very important thing. Call out who's low, who you antied. And finally, one thing I want to say is that the grenade is also going to counter Moira super hard. So do keep that in mind, because you can anti the entire enemy team that's trying to deathball, while at the same time it does work great with Moira because your entire team is going to try to deathball and you can grenade them. So there we go. I just kind of added to that on my notes, so whatever. Onto defense, he's on his scope a ton more. Like, if you see right now, he's almost always on his scope, and I think that's something that you probably should keep in mind. On offense, you want to take the risks. You want to make sure that you're getting very consistent close range healing, get your grenades on as many people as possible, all the stuff like that. Of course, throw the grenades on your feet instead of, at your teammates, so it hits more people when you're in the middle of your group, everything like that. But on defense, you want to be a little bit more defensive, scope back, go for far range grenades, and just make sure that you probably aren't going to die. Now, if they keep sending, let's say, tracers or Genjis on you, get closer to your team. Stay next to them, try to sleep them, try to damage them, try to just stay awake and stay alive with your team and kind of play more like you would on offense. But if there's none of those type of characters, like in this game, just stay back and stay safe, because there's nothing really bad against that. Also during this game, we see Gale often looking at the high ground. That's an important thing that you want to keep doing. Of course, heal your teammates, do everything you're supposed to do with this character, but look at the high ground to stop the snipers, stop Pharah, stop Junkrat spam, stop all those characters, because if they stay there for just a few seconds too long, you can get 3 shots and kill them. So that's, pretty nice. Again, we see an ultimate right here. Ulting Orisa is so good because it allows the Orisa to do a ton of damage, tank forever, especially if she has the Fortify up. And that's essentially it, but allows for your teammates to just do a lot. I think he maybe picks up someone right here, maybe not, whatever. But yeah, I think that's a really good ult target, especially on defense. On offense, Reinhardt I think is good to get in there, or D.Va, but on defense, I think Orisa is probably, the better choice as far as that goes. Let me look at my notes for a second. Okay, here we go. If you see, let's say on your team, like a super high priority target like a Mercy or a Genji or something like that, it's very low, make sure to heal them with 1 or 2 shots. But then if you also see that, they're low, but your tanks are also low, and your tanks are the ones mainly taking the damage, maybe heal a little bit on your DPS, heal them once or twice, and then go to healing your tanks. Don't feel like you have to fully top off everybody all the time, because often you don't. And often if you can get the soldier to have health and then start healing your tank, both of them can live, both of them can get their damage out. That's something you just kind of want to remember overall when you're healing with this character, especially on defense, I guess, because on offense you sometimes want to, just focus on healing your carries, but on defense it's important to just try to keep everybody alive. Right here we see something kind of weird, you can't see any enemies, can't see any teammates, really anything like that. No one's taking damage, but even when your teammates aren't taking damage, it's still a good idea to just kind of shoot them and heal them, because maybe they're gonna get a big sponge of damage in the next few seconds, and you can immediately heal up, what is it, 80, 70, I don't remember exactly. You could heal up the Ana amount, maybe, yeah, I think it's 80. You could immediately heal that up, and yeah, there you go. It kind of counters out a little bit of damage. If you are spamming on your teammates, for the most part, try to spam on the ones that are like your DPS that are really close up, especially if you have a Reaper. That's a good idea, but there's everything like that. And right now he's just spamming healing on his character. I think it is Soldier. If you want your damage out, of course, always do ult your damage dealers. I feel like a lot of people just kind of expect their tanks to somehow get a ton of damage out when they are nano boosted, which can happen. For the most part, it's not going to. He's running around right here, went for Sleep Dart, missed it a few seconds ago, but again, just go for as many of those as you can. Unless you know that a key ability is coming up. If like the enemy team has a Reaper, you probably want to save it for him, or like a Doomfist, but most of the cases you don't have to be way too afraid. Finally, we're just going on to a little bit more on the second point. Unfortunately, this team did lose on the first point. They just kind of got wiped by ultimates. That just kind of happens in Overwatch because ultimates are really good. But, they're still pushing up and doing whatever. I feel like his team is pushing up really far, making it kind of hard for him to heal. But he is healing the guys that he can, and he's still going for the damage on the people that he can easily damage. So you don't see him, like, overextending with all of his teammates. Sometimes his teammates get picked, sometimes they don't. And he makes sure that he's in the back line, staying safe, but not like in the super far back line. He's still, as you see right here, right next to his teammates, just slightly behind them. As well, he's trying to not waste his grenade on himself when he has another healer that's next to him. That's a good thing to kind of get used to. Just spam I need healing, and you don't really want to waste that ability, because just healing yourself is often one of the worst uses for the ability, compared to using it, for everything else. As well, a few seconds ago, we saw a Junkrat Tower. That's as well another idea to use your grenade against, because it can almost one-shot, I think, and if you shoot it once, it will kill it. Or if one of your teammates hits it, maybe you can one-shot it. I don't think so, but I think it can get very close, and that's overall good enough, especially because your grenade has such a big hitbox and is a much further range than the explosion of the tire, so you can kind of destroy it throughout all that. His team pushes up, I think, a little bit too far right here. Unfortunately, gets picked off. He is trying to heal the Mercy the second she goes in to try to res someone. You want to make sure you do that. Put your grenade on her. Just start shooting her. In some cases, I've seen people ult her because, you know, the Mercy has an ult. She reses people at the last second, and then, you know, maybe battle Mercy a little bit, but mainly just to make so the Mercy can get in there and stay alive. That is very situational, so don't always do that, but pretty much what you should always do is make sure that you are healing your Mercy when she's going in for a res, because, again, she is very unsafe now. She's going to be stuck for, I think, 1.75 seconds, and that's not exactly what you want to have on your Mercy, and if you are spamming healing on her, it makes it very hard for them to kill her unless they have something like a Hanzo or a Widow or, you know, a Rocket or something. Finally, on defense, I guess you should also make sure that you're saving your ultimate. He could have used his ultimate a lot of times during this, and maybe he does save it for a little bit too long because his team does get wiped again, but you can't really estimate that. But for the most part, you kind of just want to use your ultimate on defense to counter engage. You don't want to be the first one to engage, especially if you're on one of these timer maps, because once you use your ultimate, the enemies can just go in again on the next fight, and your ultimate was essentially useless. Well, I guess it was kind of useful, but, you know, it could have had a lot more use at a fight where the enemies were doing a lot better against your team. So I'd say mainly use it for counter engage instead of engaging yourself. If the enemies are going for quite a few ults and you need someone on your team to tank, for example, like an Orisa, of course, go for your ultimate. Maybe right there, I guess he could have ulted the Orisa to save her, but they do have the res up, so it's completely fine. And then, you know, continuing right here, just doing damage, just healing, kind of waiting for the perfect ult opportunity. Unfortunately, though, like, everyone at his team dies at the exact same time. And sometimes that just happens. Sometimes when that does happen, there's just not way too much you can do. The enemy team also has a nano visor, and he was mainly just hoping for a good time to counter engage, but the time really just didn't put itself in front of his eyes. And that's just what happens sometimes. Don't get too mad at yourself. Just keep playing, because just because one situation doesn't work out the best for you doesn't mean that you're going to, in the end, lose the entire game. You might lose that round, as you see right here, but you could still do good for the rest of the rounds and actually win in the end, and that's as well what we're going to see. Okay, so right here, you know, he alt tabs back into the game. He backs up a little bit, I think, after this, because he realizes that he's maybe a little bit too close, and that's fine, but, you know, you do want to back up. This is essentially going to be a repeat of what happened last time on defense, but the enemy team don't get a super strong push at the end. For the most part, you know, he's staying up there, he's healing, or I mean, he's staying back, he's healing, he's using the sniper mode to finish off kills, but his teammates are just pounding the enemies. Like, honestly, they're just demolishing them. But one thing that does allow them to keep doing this is all the healing. If you remember, you know, you're a healer. If you allow your teammates, and especially your DPS, to have more health on their side, let's say like 270 because they get hit 70 damage and then, you know, you heal it back, they're probably going to beat the enemy DPS that only has 200 HP. That's kind of how you want to think about it. I mean, they don't actually have 200 HP worth of shield or anything, but effectively during that fight, they had about 200 HP while you were healing them. So that's something you kind of want to remember, and if you are, you know, healing more than the enemies are healing their DPS, you can kind of win the round. I think the enemies eventually switch to a fair right here, but unfortunately, just Gale's team just completely stomps it through that first point. They only have a few tries, and there we go. The Mercy tries to come in and actually hits the sleep dart right there, so that's pretty good. But mainly, again, on defense, just make sure that you are not taking way too much risks. We are now on the final offense, and really the only tip I could get here, other than what I've just previously said, is that you can, and you should, always call out when someone's low, and when you're shooting someone, and when you should grenade them. As well, the ultimate just charges so quickly on offense if your team pushes up really fast, like we see right here. And you can charge Moira ult really fast with, you know, grenading, and then she heals everybody, so that's nice. But you want to make sure that you don't ult somebody that's like stuck in a trap or that can just get bursted down, like we see in like 2 seconds with this Reinhardt. If your other tank can't really protect it. If the D.Va was a bit further up, she could have blocked a lot more damage, but she was a little bit too low, and the Reinhardt just kind of died. So I guess wait for that. The Reinhardt does get revived, though, and they finally finished off this point, you know, just a really nice push, and I think the enemy team does C9 it, so it works overall pretty well for them. In the end, though, I really do like watching Gale play. I feel like he's really offensive, figures out when to go in, when to stay out, really just everything like that. And overall, again, I'm going to say, if you do want to pick up Ana and try to learn how she plays, I feel like right now will probably be a pretty good time, especially because there are going to be a truckload of Moira players, and I feel like she works good with Moira, and as well, there's always a truckload of Mercy players, and I feel like she works also pretty well with that character. And with almost all the characters in the game, I feel like depending on the meta, Ana can do well, and I hope that Ana is going to be good in this meta, especially with these new buffs and with a lot of the other characters getting a bit of a nerf. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Comment down below who you want me to talk about next time, or if you have any of your own secret Ana tips that have helped you rank up a little bit. Anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. Hit that notification button if you want to see more videos like this in the future. As always, guys, have a wonderful day.